Have you ever wondered why so many people smoke weed every day, yet still wake up feeling empty, restless, or lost? Have you ever asked yourself why this plant, once called a sacred key by ancient civilizations, is now mostly used as an escape from reality? And what if I told you that there is a secret teaching, a path hidden in history, where this plant was not used to forget life, but to awaken powers that science is only now beginning to confirm? If you are here, it is not by accident. You found this video because in some way you are ready to hear what 96% of people are not ready for. This is not just another story about weed. It is about you, your life, and the hidden door inside you that has been waiting to open. In ancient India, cannabis was called Vijaya, which means victory over suffering. In Egypt, priests burned it in temples to enter states of higher vision. In some old biblical texts, it is believed to be the holy anointing oil ingredient that opened the mind to divine connection. These people were not chasing a high. They were seeking truth. Modern science now confirms what they knew. Cannabis can increase alpha and gamma brain waves, the same waves seen in deep meditation and peak creativity. Studies show it can dissolve the ego, release hidden trauma, and even activate pathways in the brain that stay open long after the smoke clears. But here's the problem. Most people today are using it wrong. Instead of using it as a bridge to awaken, they use it as a pillow to hide from life. Stay until the end of this video, because once you understand this truth, you will never look at this plant or your own mind the same way again. And before we begin, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel, because what you're about to hear could be the missing key you have been searching for. When we look back at the history of cannabis, we discover that it was never just a plant people used to relax or escape. It was something far deeper, something sacred, almost like a key that opened hidden doors in the human mind. In India, the plant was called Vijaya, meaning victory over suffering. It was used in Vedic rituals to bring people closer to the gods and to give strength during moments of fear and pain. In Egypt, priests burned it with incense, believing the smoke carried prayers into higher realms. Many believe it was connected to the Eye of Horus, the symbol of higher vision and awakening. Even in the old biblical texts, scholars argue that the holy anointing oil may have contained cannabis, used to anoint prophets so they could see beyond the ordinary world. These people were not using it to numb themselves. They were using it to remember who they really were. Today, most people use weed to forget the stress of life, but ancient people used it to face life with courage and clarity. They used it to dissolve fear, to see visions, to understand truth. And what is truly amazing is that modern science now confirms much of what they believed. Researchers at UCLA found that cannabis boosts alpha brainwaves, the same waves that appear in deep meditation and moments of creativity. Johns Hopkins studies showed that high doses could create mystical states, even the feeling of ego dissolution, where the walls of the self fall away and a person feels connected to everything. In Israel, where cannabis is used in medical treatment, more than 70% of PTSD patients showed powerful healing results, not because they escaped their trauma, but because they were finally able to face and process it. So when we think about cannabis today, we must ask ourselves, are we using it the way the ancients did, as a sacred bridge to awaken, or are we using it as a way to hide? Because the truth is, this plant holds the power to open doors, but only if we step through them with awareness. Most people today believe they are using cannabis to feel free, but in truth, many are falling into a hidden trap. When someone smokes every night just to escape the stress of work or the emptiness of routine, they may feel calm for a few hours, but inside the problem remains. Over time, the body begins to change. Studies from Colorado show that daily users can lose up to 22% of their natural dopamine sensitivity, which means the brain becomes less able to feel joy without the plant. The prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain linked to decision-making and focus, also shows lower activity in heavy users. This is why many people say they feel stuck, less creative, or even less alive after years of casual use. The plant that was once a gift becomes a chain. But what is powerful to see is that ancient cultures already knew this danger. The Vedas of India describe cannabis as both a medicine and a poison, teaching that it could either lift a person to higher wisdom or trap them in illusion. Rastafarians often repeat that the plant opens the third eye only when it is used with prayer. Native tribes never used it casually, but only in sacred ceremonies when the timing was right. They warned that using it without intention would cloud the spirit rather than free it. Modern research now shows the same truth. A study in London found that people who approach cannabis with spiritual intention often reported life-changing insights and long-term growth, while those who used it casually reported little more than short bursts of calm. Ancient Cherokee practices combined fasting, chanting, and cannabis as part of a vision quest, teaching young people to meet their fears and find their purpose. This difference between escape and awakening is not in the plant itself, but in the way we choose to meet it. So when we hold this plant, we must ask, are we seeking to hide from life, or are we ready to face it fully? Because the plant can open the door, but it is our choice whether we walk into light or into shadow. In the temples of ancient Egypt, cannabis was not seen as something casual. It was used with great care, as part of secret ceremonies connected to the wisdom of Thoth, the god of knowledge and hidden truth. Historical records and old papyrus writings suggest that priests burned cannabis together with frankincense and myrrh, believing that the smoke created a bridge between the human mind and the divine world. These ceremonies were often timed with the cycles of the moon, especially during the new or full moon, when energy was believed to be at its strongest. The rituals included chanting, candle or flame gazing, and deep meditation, all designed to quiet the ordinary mind and open the door to visions. For them, cannabis was not just a plant, but a sacred tool of activation. What makes this story even more powerful is that modern science is now confirming the effects that these ancient rituals described. Recent studies in Nature Neuroscience showed that a single intentional high-dose experience with cannabis could create long-lasting changes in brain networks, especially those linked to memory, intuition, and emotional balance. Researchers in Cairo, inspired by Egyptian practices, recreated ritual-like conditions with guided sessions and found that more than 80% of participants reported increased clarity, intuition, and even lasting changes in how they made choices in life. Brain scans from similar studies show changes in the default mode network, the part of the brain that usually creates the sense of a separate self. When this network becomes quiet, people often report feelings of unity and higher understanding, the same states the Egyptian priests spoke of thousands of years ago. The lesson for us today is that we can adapt this wisdom to modern life. Fasting for even 24 hours before use has been shown to increase the body's natural cannabinoid sensitivity by nearly 40%. Creating a quiet, sacred space with music or candles helps the mind move into a meditative state. Writing down a single deep question before the session, such as "What is holding me back?" can focus the experience. And simple breathing techniques, like slow deep breaths, guide the mind away from distraction and toward insight. The real secret of Thoth's ritual was not about escaping life, but about facing it with clarity. Cannabis was a doorway, but it was the ritual, the intention, and the courage to look within that turned smoke into wisdom. There comes a moment when we realize that cannabis is not the destination, but only a teacher along the path. Many people believe that the love, peace, or clarity they feel while high comes from the plant, but in truth, those states were already inside them. The plant only revealed what was hidden. A study from Brazil showed that cannabis activates receptors in the brain linked to anandamide, known as the bliss molecule. But the human body can also produce this naturally through sunlight, movement, and deep states of rest. This means the joy and connection we often credit to the plant are actually part of our true nature, waiting to be awakened. Modern science is now showing how simple natural practices can recreate the same brain states as cannabis. Meditation and breathwork have been proven to increase both alpha and gamma brainwaves, which are the same patterns cannabis activates in the brain. Japanese researchers studying forest bathing found that spending only 20 minutes in nature reduced stress hormones as much as a cannabis session. German studies on candle-gazing meditation showed a 38% increase in alpha waves, leading to deep calm and expanded awareness. These results reveal that the door opened by cannabis is not locked. We can return to those states anytime through natural and mindful practices. This is why the choice becomes so important. One person may continue smoking daily, chasing short relief but slowly losing energy and clarity. Another may decide to use what the plant taught them as a guide and step into practices that bring awakening without smoke. Many who leave behind casual use report stronger joy, better focus, and deeper creativity because the brain begins to restore its natural balance. Modern research even shows that former cannabis users who practice mindfulness often display stronger awakened brain patterns than they ever did while using the plant. The truth is simple. Cannabis can open the door, but it is up to us to keep walking. Awakening does not belong to smoke. It belongs to the soul. And once you realize that, you no longer depend on anything outside of you. You become the source. Now that you have heard this story, you can see that cannabis was never only about escape. It was always a mirror, a bridge, and a teacher. Ancient people in India, Egypt, and many other places treated it as something sacred. They used it to face fear, to heal pain, and to open the mind to higher wisdom. Modern science today shows the same truth. Studies prove that cannabis can open brain states linked to meditation, deep healing, and even feelings of unity with life. But we also know that using it without care can bring the opposite effect, making the mind weaker, lowering natural joy, and trapping a person in endless escape. This is why the real choice is not about the plant itself, but about how we use it and what we want from it. If we meet the plant with intention, it can show us the peace, love, and clarity that were already inside us. But when the smoke clears, it is our responsibility to keep walking that path. We can return to these states without the plant through meditation, breath work, time in nature, gratitude, and simple acts of love. Science confirms that these natural practices activate the same parts of the brain and body, creating balance and joy without any substance. This is the hidden message. Cannabis was always a doorway, not the destination. So if this video has reached you today, it is because you are ready. Ready to see that what you seek is not in smoke or an escape, but in your own heart and soul. The plant may guide you, but the real awakening begins when you remember that you were the source all along. Now that you have heard this story, you can see that cannabis was never only about escape. It was always a mirror, a bridge, and a teacher. Ancient people in India, Egypt, and many other places treated it as something sacred. They used it to face fear, to heal pain, and to open the mind to higher wisdom. Modern science today shows the same truth. Studies prove that cannabis can open brain states linked to meditation, deep healing, and even feelings of unity with life. But we also know that using it without care can bring the opposite effect, making the mind weaker, lowering natural joy, and trapping a person in endless escape. This is why the real choice is not about the plant itself, but about how we use it and what we want from it. If we meet the plant with intention, it can show us the peace, love, and clarity that were already inside us. But when the smoke clears, it is our responsibility to keep walking that path. We can return to these states without the plant through meditation, breath work, time in nature, gratitude, and simple acts of love. Science confirms that these natural practices activate the same parts of the brain and body, creating balance and joy without any substance. This is the hidden message. Cannabis was always a doorway, not the destination. So if this video has reached you today, it is because you are ready. Ready to see that what you seek is not in smoke or an escape, but in your own heart and soul. The plant may guide you, but the real awakening begins when you remember that you were the source all along.